What is going on, everybody? How we doing today? As usual, hope doing well. It is a Saturday, and I'm not going to keep starting off the Saturday streams with the explanation as to why we stream Saturdays. It's just that it's still pretty new, so I want to kind of just preface it. Usually, I would stream Sundays, but since I have stuff that goes on Sundays now, I moved the Sunday stream to Saturday, and that is what we're doing here today. What is going on, Austino? What is going on, Zachary Barrett? What is going on, JC? What is going on, Smart Moron? How we all doing tonight? I apologize this was so late. Saturdays are a bit more free for me, but that doesn't mean I don't have shit going on. Um, and because I had some shit that I was doing today, like I just couldn't stream till late. I got home from something and I was like, nah, I want to watch some Sopranos. I've finally been able to give the Sopranos a chance, the chance that it deserves, and I'm starting to come around. I'm starting to understand why people like it. I believe I'm still on season one. Excuse me. I believe I'm still on season one. I'd have to double check that, but yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. I have to say, it was a it's been pretty good, but yeah. So today we are going to be doing a specific kind of stream, and it's going to be a deep dive stream, similar to the lolcow deep dives that I have started doing recently. But instead of it being just a lolcow deep dive, it is going to be a deep dive into American extremist groups. And in this case, it's going to be a couple of different ones, but this is something that I plan on doing semi-frequently. I plan on doing it, frequently enough. But what's going on, Scratch Coast? Don't wake up your wife; she won't feed you gabagool. Yeah, yeah. Um, fucking, I went to a Greek festival today, and the food was good, don't get me wrong, but it was not as good as I would have hoped. And the junk food, like the desserts, are just not that good. I got to be honest with you. There's some cultures that just can't get dessert foods right, and I feel like Greece is probably one of them. Baklava is really really good, but even the baklava that I got there was not exactly the best that I've ever gotten. Other than that, there's some other shit that I tried that I was just like not impressed with. China is another one where like authentic Chinese food is really really good. If you can ever have some, I highly recommend it. But their dessert items are always awful. And you know what else? Mooncakes. Maybe it's because the only mooncake I've ever had has been it was a store bought mooncake, meaning like I think I got them at Costco or something like that. They had mooncakes. Maybe that's why the mooncakes were just dog shit. But I tried one last year and I was just not impressed at all. It was like dry, and it was not sweet at all. I at least expected it to be sweet, and it's just like people were like going crazy about these on Instagram a little while back. They were like, oh, mooncakes, well, yeah, dude, I love mooncakes. And it's like, fucking why? These things are trash. If there's one thing we do good in America, it's junk food. I mean, it's just the truth. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. We have some of the best junk food in the world. uh and Sopranos is awesome and immense. The memes are worth the watch. Yeah, like one thing that I found a little bit weird was that all the memes that I was seeing, they seem to have taken place in like the first season. It's just like time after time after time, I keep seeing, oh hey, there's a meme that I saw on YouTube Shorts. Here's a picture. This is where that picture that I saw came from. So it's a little bit strange, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Uh, Brigadeiros, chocolate carrot cakes, condensed milk lava cakes. Nah, but yeah, Brazilian desserts are like extra. They are really weird, but they are really good. I would highly recommend a lot of different Brazilian desserts, including brigadeiros. Brigadeiros are very good. Um, chocolate carrot cake, that does sound a little bit weird. I don't know how much I'd like that one. But the way they do their cakes is, they're very moist. They're nice. I like them anyway. I like them. Chocolate pizza is good. They do some weird shit though for sure. Like they have banana pizza, banana and brown sugar pizza, and you would it doesn't sound that bad until you realize there's cheese on it. They also have these things called esfihas, which are not technically like Brazilian or originating. They were Arabic, I guess. There's some Brazilian food that is like it has Arabic. Um, it has Arabic origins, but um, one of those is esfija, and I tried a brigadeiro esfija, and it was really good until I realized that there's some kind of fucking cheese on it. They love putting cheese on things that cheese should not be on. They also love the hell out of mayonnaise, and I'm not a mayonnaise guy. I'll put a little bit on a burger or something like that. Other than that, I don't even know a roast beef club or something like that. But they will like they'll take a mayonnaise packet and just squeeze it on top, take a bite. It's like the mayonnaise to actual food ratio is like of 60-40, like 60% real like actual food, 40% mayo. And that's disgusting to me. That is so gross. I don't know what they're doing over there. They need to knock it off though. But anyway, cheese mayo corn, yeah, definitely not the biggest fan of like I don't mind corn. I don't mind cheese, but cheese and corn together, there's always been something weird about that to me. There were these videos going around on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that for a little while of this like Mexican street food guy who was making cheese corn, and it's just like the grossest thing. And like you're supposed to look at that and be like, "Whoa, that looks so good," and it's like, no, that was terrible, fucking awful. You know, you're gonna love the episode where Tony unlocks his hidden power. Oh man, I can't wait. I bought a subscription to HBO Max just so I could watch Sopranos. I caved. It's only $10 a month anyway. Like whatever. I'll just cancel it when I'm done. But yeah, I tried to watch it via the computer, and I gave up on that. I gave up on that. Um, pure gastrointestinal pure gastrointestinal obliteration. Yeah, I can only imagine how clogged the fucking pores are. Oh man, excuse me. I like mayo on fires, and I'm not even Polish. Did you mean fries? UFC would have you believe 60% of Brazilians are called Silva. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of Silvas. There's a lot of Silvas. There's a lot of Almeidas. There's a lot of Alves. What else? There's like Barboza, Barbosa. There's a lot of them, there's a lot of them. But Hyperborea Maxing says, I talked to Aria today and he is 100% down to do a Scott Aria Jimmy stream, bro. Oh, yeah, you know what? I completely forgot about that. It's good that you reminded me, Hyperborea Maxing, because I forgot about that and I would not have remembered it. So I'm definitely going to have to hit both of them up. I'll probably do that after this. In fact, I'm going to write a note. I'm going to write a note to myself just to make sure that I do. Because I definitely want to make sure that I can do something fun like that. One, two, sorry, I'm like catching up on all the texts that I was ignoring all day. Yeah, so, Jimmy, Ari, Arye, Streamerino. All right, set myself a reminder. That is good to know. All right, cool. Thank you again, sir. Thank you again. Half the sauces people dip their shit into are mayo based anyway. Yeah. Like a mayo based sauce, I don't mind. But one thing that I have an aversion to is ketchup. And I like ketchup on fries. I like it on hot dogs, burgers, things like that. But the idea of scooping ketchup and like eating it is like gross to me. Which I mean, I feel like that'd be gross to most people, but um like there's just something like stroganoff, right? Brazilians make stroganoff a certain way, and the way they make it includes ketchup. Um, and it's not even a shit ton of it, but the fact that I know that ketchup is an ingredient in it like that, I'm just like, ugh, ugh, fuck, I can't do it. I can't fucking do it. You know, there's just something about it that's just like not okay to me. But it's like I said, I can have ketchup on fries, I can have ketchup on other stuff, but it's a fair amount of ketchup. It's not like ketchup is a base, and that's something that um like barbecue sauce. I don't mind barbecue sauce, but if I get the hint of a little bit too much ketchup in there, I'm like, not a fan of this. Not a fan of this at all, you know? Something like mayonnaise or something like that is like, okay, that's not horrible, horrible, you know? But there's something about ketchup where I can taste it, and because of that, I'm just like, no thanks. Um, the only food with ketchup in it that's reasonably good is meatloaf. Even that, like, I don't know if there's ketchup in meatloaf in particular. If there is, I don't know if that changes my mind on meatloaf. I haven't had meatloaf in at least like 15, 20 years, if I'm being honest with you. I can't remember. Can't remember the last time I had meatloaf, but um like I do remember liking it. But if there's one thing I never liked is when there was ketchup smeared on top of the meatloaf. If I want ketchup on something, I'll put it on there. Like let me be the one to start putting the ketchup on there. If it's not a main ingredient or something like that, don't like drizzle it on. Don't fucking take a knife and smear it on, you know? I'll apply as much of the condiment as I want. And that's something that like it bothers me. It bothers me, you know? It makes me not want to eat things, you know? Try using 50% barbecue sauce and 50% ketchup in noodles with onions and ground beef. It's heckin' good, yo. Nah, I think I'm all set on that one. I think I'm all set on that one. Um, Good meatloaf has it, but it's cooked into it. I mean, yeah, I suppose that's probably why I didn't have that much of an issue with it, because it's not like I could taste the ketchup because it's like mixed in. It's cooked into it, like you said, you know. Only place where ketchup shines is Sloppy Joe. I haven't had Sloppy Joes in again 15, 20 years. That's like a kid thing from what I've noticed is that Sloppy Joes are what you eat as a kid when your parents don't have the time or the energy to make a real meal. And like when you become an adult, you're usually just like, nah, I ain't gonna do that. I don't feel like doing that. It's kind of like PB and J. Like every now and again, I go on a PB and J kick, right? I do like PB and J. In fact, I love PB and J. But when I think of having a meal, even if it's just a light lunch, I'm usually not like, oh, I should have peanut butter and jelly. That's not my thing. That's not my thing, you know. Um, oh man. Um, I don't know like because isn't there like sloppy Joe mix or something like that? Is there ketchup in the mix, or is it that like you have to add ketchup to the mix, kind of like with hamburger helper, you have to add the hamburger, you know? That's something where like I don't have the attention. This is gonna sound so stupid, but I don't have the attention span to make hamburger helper, right? Where like if I'm gonna make a pasta, I just want to make the pasta and then throw a bunch of sauce on it, whether it's a mac and cheese or whether it's like something else, you know. So whenever I'm in the store and I'm like I need something for dinner and I see hamburger helper on the shelf, I'm like, I mean, I used to love the fuck out of that when I was a kid, but I just don't have the energy to right now. Which like it's so stupid, I know, because it's like what another 10 minutes of effort that I can do while I'm waiting for the noodles to soften up. You know, it's like yeah, yeah, but I can't square the circle is what I'm talking about. I can't square the circle. You know, um, oh excuse me, uh, um, Hamperker Hem Hamperker Hempler. Oh, I see. What's going on, S9? Um, that man which can sauce as hell. You see that's what my That's what my mom always used to do. You know, I was talking about my wife. I was talking about my wife. I was talking to my wife about this earlier, right? And I realized just how much of your eating habits come down to whether or not your parents knew how to cook. Like my eating habits shift between not terrible and really fucking bad. That's why I'm fat. Is because for a long time my eating habits were just really fucking bad. I talk about it at least once a stream at this point. And the reason I talk about it is because it bothers me and it's tough for me to do something about it. But anyway, not bitching and moaning about it for once. Um, I realized that part of the reason why it was harder for me to have healthier eating habits for a long time is because when I was younger, I got into the habit of associating actual good food with just displeasure. Because my dad was the type of guy, when he would make a steak, he would burn it to a crisp. You would have to drown it in A1 sauce, and it was like tough, you know? And I think that was because he was afraid, like, what if I undercook it? Oh, dude, the kids will get sick. And it's like, no, it's not how steak works, you know? That's how chicken works. Fucking. But even then, there's like a large gap between not done and burnt to a crisp. It's not hard for you to hit the middle, right? But like everything my dad cooked on the grill was burnt to a crisp. And a lot of the time it was unseasoned. You know, white people don't season date chicken and shit. And even when my mom would make food that was good, it was it was weird. She would make it good one time, and then after that she would just never be able to recreate that success with the same dish, you know. I can't tell you how many times, like taco soup was one of those, right? I had taco soup for the first time. My grandmother died. A family friend brought us some food, as is kind of a cultural norm in America, you know. And what they brought was taco soup, and my brother and I liked it so much that my mom started cooking it, and she made it good like two or three times, and then after that, it was just fucking garbage. It was just trash, you know. And I'm sure it was because there was an aversion to salt in my house. The reason why the aversion to salt existed is because my parents were neurotic about like, oh, but like salt isn't good for you. It gives you high blood pressure. Yeah, yeah, you know. So like a lot of the time we'd be eating this stuff and it would just be the worst fucking thing you've ever tasted. So when I thought of good food, meaning food that was tasty, it would only ever be soda. It would only ever be um like processed junk food and stuff like that. And even though now, like, I'm not the greatest cook in the world, but I'm a fuck ton better than my parents. That's for sure. Um, like now that I am able to make good food, I can intellectualize. Like in my head, I'm like, no, steak is not awful. It's actually really good. No, chicken is actually really tasty. I can make this good. I can make that good. Now that I have that in my head, I still find myself just out of habit being like, I want some tasty food right now. Let's go to the store and buy like a large candy bar, a king size candy bar or something, you know? Um, it's like at the end of the day, you know, the buck stops with me. I'm not saying like, so it's my parents' fucking fault, but that plays such a huge part in it, you know. Because like when I think again, like when I think of tasty food, I don't think of a steak, even though I love the fuck out of steak. I look forward to being able to eat steak, but when I think of tasty food, I don't think steak. I hope you guys get what I'm trying to get across here, you know. I can intellectualize, but the instinct in me, the instinct in with the instinct inside of me is telling me like, nah, dude, if you want good food, hey, it's a Saturday. You want good food? You want some fucking food that tastes good? Dude, get Five Guys or McDonald's or something like that, you know? I had steak for lunch. I had lamb for dinner because I went to that Greek festival, you know? And it was good. It tasted good. I enjoyed it, you know? Um but like since it's a Saturday, there's something in the back of my head that's like, no, 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 no. This is not the food you should be eating today, dude. You should be eating a large pizza is what you should be eating, you know? Um, But yeah, I'm actually waiting for some McDonald's to get here. My brother-in-law is bringing me some McDonald's. I got I'm making a McGangbang, and then I got a soda as well because I'm not gonna lie to you, I am still hungry, you know, and it is a Saturday, so whatever. Even though I ate actually like halfway decently today, um, you know, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Is what I am. Lamb chops with mint jelly. I've never had them with mint jelly. I do love the fuck out of lamb though. I love making it with like garlic and butter, or just garlic butter. I'll throw slices of cheese on there. You know, um, it is really good. You can make a you can make a butter emulsion with it. Making a butter emulsion is so easy. You just have to do it the right way. It's like it's not hard at all. It's literally just butter and water. What you got to do, and I forget the exact proportions. Me when I make an emulsion, I just eye it out. But um, you got to cut up the butter into like about like an inch and a half to 2 inch squares. And you toss them into the pan one by one. You wait for one to be just about fully melted. You toss the next one in. You keep on stirring, stir, 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 stir. Keep on, throwing them in. And me, what I'll do is I'll take some pepper because the thing about a butter emulsion is that it's gonna be salty because you're just eating butter and water. So in order to kind of take that saltiness down, you take pepper and you take pepper and you do this. No, but you take pepper and you throw some pepper in there, and it tastes really good. I'll use that like I made lobster rolls a few times, and I used a butter emulsion instead of a butter sauce emulsion, whatever you want to call it. I used that butter sauce that I'm talking about making on there. I threw a little bit of lemon juice in as well as the pepper, and it was really good. You couldn't eat the lobster roll with your hands. You had to go fork and knife with it, but it was really good. I would highly recommend that. You know, I like cooking, not enough to become a chef. I actually almost went to culinary school after high school. But my mother actually told me I should probably wait. Which was a fucked up thing to do to me, but I'm not bitching about my parents right now. And I did realize after, like, oh, I don't know if I would love being a chef. I don't know if I'd be able to stand it. So I just enjoy cooking. I just enjoy doing my own stuff. I think the last thing I made from scratch was pancakes, buttermilk pancakes, and they were very good. You can taste the vanilla in them. No data. Can you guys hear me right now? The hell's going on here? Apparently there's some kind of issue. The I don't know if you guys can hear or even see me right now. Okay, smart moron is saying yeah, so I guess that's good. But um, yeah, I hear you. You're ahead of us though. Oh yeah, I'm sure I'm ahead of you guys a little bit. Yeah, but like out of nowhere, my YouTube stream just dropped. There was no data. Wow, we're already 26 minutes into the stream right now. That's crazy. Feels like I just started a second ago, but um, yeah, but I was yeah, well that's good that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, like my stream page says it dropped. Like there was just no data at all. And then now it's saying error, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. So I apologize for that. I don't know what the deal is going. I don't know what the deal is. Um all right, now I'm back to excellent connection or something like that. So I guess that's good. But anyway, yeah, like it's almost child abuse to not be a good enough cook for your child. And I'm not saying that like when I say that, it's like obviously I don't mean it's like um um People have a certain idea about what abuse is, right? And maybe I'm calling it child abuse because I just don't have something better to call it. That's definitely what it is, but it's almost like a certain kind of child abuse, like almost. A lot of the time, people just don't know any better, right? But if you're the kind of person who you could learn how to cook, you just don't bother to, you're setting your child up for a situation where they're going to have a really unhealthy relationship with food. Because regardless of what everybody says, they want to feel good when they eat. Whether it's somebody who has a good or a bad relationship with food, good food makes some people feel good. You know, some people enjoy eating salads. They're totally cool with it. Would they rather have a candy bar or something else? Yeah, sure they would, but it's not so detestable to them, that idea that they're like, "Oh, fuck that," you know? But you have a lot of people out there who, when they have an opportunity to order a salad, it's so detestable. The idea is so repellent to them that they're like, "No, fuck that. I'm out of here." Like, no. Give me a burger, give me a this, give me a that. So it's like I want to. It's not like I'm going to be a Michelin star chef or anything like that, but I want to make sure that when I'm able to cook for my kids, that like they actually are like, oh, this is good, Dad. Thanks. You know, um, you don't win friends with salads. Yeah. If you can't cook by high school, you're fucked. It's Jover. Yeah. No, you can learn to cook at any time. You know, cooking can be a hobby. You know, cooking can definitely be a hobby. I treat it like a hobby. Every now and again, I'm just like, hey, fuck it, let's make something weird. Like lobster rolls, for instance. That's not weird, but you get what I mean. You know, sometimes I'm just like, yo, you know what? I want to make a pizza. Yo, you know what? I want to make a lobster roll, and because of that, I just make it myself. You know, it's good. Kids can't have coffee, still messed up off stimulants. Yeah, that's an interesting one that I never thought of. Is that when we were all kids, they were like, no, you can't have coffee. Here, have meth. What? You coffee? No, you're too young for that. Here's some meth. It was prescribed to you by your psychiatrist. Here's some meth. Um, I started learning to cook at 24. Oh yeah, you know, you can do it at any time. It's like I said, what is it? It's a um it's a hobby. It's a hobby, you know. If you treat it like a hobby, you can have fun with it, you know. There's a certain meditative quality to it, you know. Oh man, I have the Sopranos theme song stuck in my head, you know. I have the Sopranos theme song, you know. So uh what are we here for today? We're here for a very particular purpose, and that is to deep dive into some extremist organizations in the nation specifically. I'm not saying we won't ever do stuff that is outside of the United States. I'm just saying that I like to keep it within the United States because that is kind of my area of expertise a lot of the time. I am aware of and almost like damn near in a damn near an encyclopedic um I have almost an encyclopedic knowledge of a lot of these groups. I don't know why, just when I was younger there was something about it just fascinated me knowing about all of them and everything like that. And you know, because of that, like I always had like useless information that I never even was like, oh, I need to remember this. It's just it stuck with me, you know. I know a lot about the Bloods, the Crips. I know a lot about Antifa, as you guys know from the last stream, as well as the video that I did talking about the origins of American anti-fascist action, pretty much all from memory. That was all off rip, all from memory. That video that I showed you guys, the I forget what I called it, but it was the one that I showed you about the origins of Antifa in America. It's about a month old on my channel. Activism Stories 2 is what it was called. But speaking of which, Carolyn Borisenko, the chick that I was telling you guys about, the grifter bitch, she was actually on Fox News, I think today or yesterday, and they had her on as a quote unquote Antifa expert, and that is an interesting one to me because I figured out that she's actually like some kind of piece of shit, like wannabe intellectual dark web person. You remember like I think it was like Dave Rubin and like Jordan Peterstein or something like that. They were like, hey, we're the new punk. They really tried to take the fucking conservatism as the new punk thing and make it like a real thing. And they were like, oh, we're the intellectual dark web is what we are. Oh man, dude, nobody people are afraid of us because of our ideas. It's what it is. But we're not afraid of nothing. Like that's they tried to like have some weird bullshit like that. Um I guess she was like one of the grifters that was in that. I only figured out about this woman within the last like week because I was trying to prepare for the Charlie Kirk rally that I would end up attending last Thursday, you know. And she was just like bitchy and unhelpful towards me when I was trying to make sure people were kept safe. It's funny that there's a saying that I heard that shit floats, and it makes complete and total sense because I can tell you that this woman does not know a single fucking thing about Antifa. I talked about it last night. We don't got to rehash the whole thing. I just when I was talking about all these things that I know about, I remembered that, and so somebody on Twitter somebody on Twitter was talking about her as well, you know? Like, oh, hold on. Uh sorry, I'm just looking around for it. Oh, it's the Watcher on the Web is what it was. Yeah, it is who it was. Is who it was. Um yeah, but it's like I said, so many people want to feel like they know what's going on, and they want to feel like they are some kind of like guru or know-it-all. You know, there's a lot of people who want to feel like they're the modern day Corneliu Codreanu or a modern day Julius Evola or Mussolini or a modern day Reagan, a modern day John Wayne, you know, things like that. They want to feel that way, and because of that, they come into the political sphere, and instead of just like being nameless soldier number 400, which you need nameless soldiers, proverbial soldiers, that is. Instead of just being a guy who plays their part, they want to be the fucking guy. I know so much shit. I have so much experience, and I know how to actually organize a movement in a way that is going to make a difference, you know? But I don't want that attention. I don't need that. So I stay out of it. Even though I've been more open about it with you guys, I don't want to be the guy cuz the guy gets targeted in multiple different ways. So I'm all set with that. And besides, people are not going to listen to me anyway. I don't have that kind of charisma, you know? I'm a much more cerebral guy. I'm much more of a hands-on, boots on the ground kind of guy. You know, people don't want to listen to me. I understand that. You know, I probably have like if if I'm lucky, I have like 15 people watching this stream right now. You know, but um, it's just annoying to see people who they come in and they just immediately try and grift and they immediately try and be the center of attention, and it just brings everybody, especially the cause that they claim to be fighting for, down. You know, don't be the lightning rod. Exactly, fucking exactly. You know, but movies told me I'm the main character. Exactly. You know, we I don't I've been telling stories lately. I don't want to tell too many of them. You know, but it was always the guys who were like gung ho and who were like, I don't need to worry about it. You think I'm afraid of Antifa who got fired from their jobs? It was always those guys. Or they got visited by law enforcement and they flipped, or they changed gender. Literally, I've seen it happen before. Like somebody gets visited by local police or like feds or something like that, which happens in that life. That kind of thing happens. Never happened to me, luckily. Let's knock on wood. But then again, there was no reason for them to do that anyway. You know, I never did anything illegal, and I never had any knowledge of anything going on that was like worth that kind of thing. So, you know, it's whatever. But like people get visited, and a year later, all of a sudden they're a they them, or they're like they're bisexual or something like that. They literally get scared gay. They literally get scared gay is what they is what happens. They get so scared they start liking dick in the mouth. And all of a sudden they're like, well, actually, BLM has a point. Well, I mean, yeah, Mao was like a butcher, but he kind of deviated from the path of what is considered to be traditional Marxist Leninism. Is what it is. He wasn't really a communist, you know. Uh, uh, it wasn't real communism. It hasn't been tried yet. Like all of a sudden they're talking like that, you know. Um, it was bonkers seeing that and seeing how often it happened. It happened no less than like 3 or 4 times from what I saw. You know, it's like holy shit. Um, Scott's activism codename Cage. Yeah. Uh, don't shoot. I'm bisexual. Exactly. Not trying to dick ride, but I watch your stream, Scott, because I know you're a real one, not a grifter who wants to be the main character. Fewer like this nowadays. I appreciate that, Austino, and I'm thank you for being here. You know, I don't think you're dick riding. I don't think expressing appreciation for someone is glazing or dick riding or anything like that. You know, I like. I'll just tell you how I feel, and if I feel something good for you, then I'm gonna tell you how I feel. Like I'm gonna tell you that I think you're good or what you're doing is good or something like that. You know. Um, COVID fears and a leftist ex-girlfriend turned an old friend of mine into a troon. Yeah, yeah. You got to be careful of those info hazards, and you got to be careful not to put yourself in a situation where you again you scare yourself gay. Um, so you're saying he was squinting when he read the man when he read the manifesto. Oh man. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so we're looking into the Jewish Defense Organization as well as the Jewish Defense League, and these are two organizations that I have been vaguely aware of. I've looked into them in the past, but I didn't look into them in a hardcore manner. Meaning, like, I don't even think when I say hardcore manner, what I mean is like I never even bothered to read their Wikipedia pages. I just like saw maybe one YouTube video on them or something like that at one point. But today we're going to be deep diving into those, and it's a little bit interesting. It's a little bit interesting to me, right? And I'm going to tell you what's interesting to me. So, when I type in Jewish Defense Organization, right, what you see right here is the Israel Defense Force, or Defense Forces. Okay, that's fine, you know, whatever. Like, it is a Jewish defense organization, you know, I guess, whatever. But before, right, let's just see what happens, right? So here's that. Bang. See, Jewish Defense Organization, the Jewish Defense League. Before, when I typed it in, there was something called the Jewish Combat Organization that popped up for the Wikipedia. And I clicked on that, and then I clicked back, and then it came to the Israel Defense Forces. For some reason, Brave Browser can't just give me one answer, and it can't give me the answer that I'm looking for about the JDO, which was a legitimate activist organization that was started by a guy named Mordecai Levy. That is, that is something that I did read about that, right? I'm just curious, what happens? Mordecai Levy. We're looking for Mordecai Levy. Anyway, so here we are, a press photo of Mordecai Levy. So it's him right here. Oy vey. So this is the organizer, the chief organizer, the leader of the JDO. Right now, it seems like we can get through what we want. It seems like we can kind of get through what we want here, right? Or get what we want through here. You see, when I type in the Jewish Defense Organization, it doesn't show up here right away. There's like weird shit that happens. I find that to be interesting. I find that to be interesting. The JDL lore gets crazy deep. Yeah. And you see, when I decided I was going to do streams like this, I put down four. I put down four different groups because that's how many you can do in a Twitter poll. I put down four different groups. One of them was the Symbionese Liberation Army. I know quite a bit about them. The other one was the Weather. Another one was Weather Underground, or the Weathermen. That is another one that I know quite a bit about. Right? The Weathermen, right? They are probably one of the biggest examples of how the left wing is allowed to get away with terrorism. They were guilty of numerous bombings. I think they may have even killed people, like not just with the bombings, but they may have even killed people. They organized riots, like straight up riots, like Fed posting riots, the type of shit, the type of shit that if you typed in a Discord server, people would be like, "You mean in Minecraft, right?" They organized that shit out in the open. They stemmed from the Students for a Democratic Society, right, which is basically like the DSA back in the 60s and 70s and shit like that. But yeah, we're not talking about Weather Underground here. It's just the Weather Underground, if you are not aware of them, is the one of the craziest examples. The other one that I put down was Hammerskins. Hammerskins, the skinhead gang, social club, whatever you want to call it. The only one that I didn't really know that much about, I don't know that much about the Hammerskins, if I'm being honest with you, but the only one I really didn't know that much about was the Jewish Defense League, and the Jewish Defense Organization. So I'm kind of learning about all this stuff with you guys right now, if I'm being honest with you. Weather Underground is also crazy, amazing how well that's been buried from the mainstream. Oh yeah, Bill Ayers literally mentored Barack Obama, and now he's a professor at Columbia. Yeah, yeah. Bernadine Dorn is a professor somewhere in New York as well. I believe upstate. I could be wrong about exactly where in New York, but I know she's in at a university in New York. Man, um, Weather Underground is the name of my new book about Hollow Earth, though. That's a clever one there. Mordecai Levy is also the real name of Karl Marx, if I remember correctly. Really interesting. Let's look that one up. Karl Marx. Yeah, so it just says Karl Marx. It doesn't say born Karl with a C Marx. Biography. Karl Marx was born on the 5th of May 1818 to Heinrich Marx. Okay, so yeah, that's his that is actually his whatever it's called. His dad's name. But anywho, so Mark Mordecai Levy is a U.S. based political activist and founder of the militant Jewish Defense Organization, a breakaway faction of the Jewish Defense League. David Tell of the Weekly Standard wrote that the group is located at the farthest, shadowy margins of American public life. Levy has organized a paramilitary training camp located in upstate New York named after revisionist Zionist leader Vladimir Jabotinsky. Interesting. It's a very interesting looking guy. I never knew that about the paramilitary training camp. I wonder what could be done to bust that up. Assuming it's still operating. Assuming it's still operating. Because apparently this was something that happened in like the 80s or something. I'm not 100% sure, but we're gonna read about Mordecai Levy. Then I think we'll go to the Jewish Defense League because apparently that came first. This is the chicken and that's the egg, if you will. But early attention. Levy first came to public attention after he was arrested in 1981 in Los Angeles on a charge of firebombing a Nigerian diplomat's car that was parked near the Soviet UN mission. Whoa. 3 days earlier, Levy was arrested after attacking a Latvian alleged to be a Nazi war criminal in a courtroom as he was fighting deportation. So this guy is just allowed to do this then. This guy is just allowed to do it because he from the sound of it, right? He was in the middle of a court as he did this. So they allowed him to just leave jail on some kind of bail after he was so brazen to have done something like that, allegedly, apparently. And then he allegedly firebombed somebody's car. That is what the fuck, man. Anyway, um, so the Jewish Defense Organization. By the mid 1980s, Levy had left the Jewish Defense League to form the Jewish Defense Organization in 1985 after a bomb at the Santa Ana, California offices of the American Arab Anti Discrimination Committee killed its West Coast director, Alex Ode. Ode? Both the Jewish Defense League and Jewish Defense Organization came under heavy investigation by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. 2 weeks earlier, according to the New York Times, the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee's New York office appeared on a list entitled "Enemies of the Jewish People," handed out in Washington D.C. by Levy. Levy was quoted in a UPI report denying responsibility for the murder. "We had no hand in this, but this man deserved what he got." Yeah, that's very that's about what I would expect. That's about what I would expect. But anyway, asked about the attacks by the New York Times, Levy said, "We aren't claiming credit." So it's not that we didn't do it. It's just that we're not claiming credit. Okay, we aren't claiming credit, but it couldn't happen to better people, more deserving people. They're getting a taste of their own medicine. Man, you don't even hear the Klan. You don't even hear the glowingest Klan member talk like this. You don't hear the baldest of neo-Nazi skinheads talk like that. That's you would only hear a guy like this speak like that. And that's something that you'll notice is that there's certain people out there who belong to certain groups who they are just that full of hatred and vitriol that they would do something and say something like this. And this is reminiscent of a lot of what we've been hearing about Charlie Kirk lately, you know? Um, no, ask Chat GPT. His father changed the family name just before he was born. His real name is Mordecai Halevi. His grandfather was a rabbi. I'll check it out. Ooh, excuse me. Anyway, uh, Levy was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder and other charges as he opened fire on the late JDL leader Irv Rubin in 1989, hitting an innocent bystander. What is this? What is this dude doing free in 1989? How is he not taken off the streets? And he's not hiding himself. He's not trying to like he's not. I would assume he wasn't wearing a mask. I would assume it was all out in the open. I would guess it was from the sound of it, you know. How is he not being monitored and how is he not being taken off the streets? I'm curious about the lore behind that. Anyway, um he even hit an innocent bystander too. Dude can't shoot straight. uh Rubin was attempting to serve a subpoena on Levy. Levy was acquitted of all charges except 1 count of felony assault with a deadly weapon, for which he served 18 months of a 4.5-year sentence. Makes you wonder. Levy pleaded guilty in 2000 to unrelated charges that he assaulted a 12-year-old boy in New York State. That's exactly what I would expect of this guy. Levy collects information on neo-Nazis, the KKK, Arab organizations. A 1989 Village Voice article on the Jewish militant reported Levy's, uncanny ability to track down KKK members and neo-Nazis astounded federal officials. Levy does appear to possess membership lists of neo-Nazi groups and KKK members across the U.S., a confidential FBI memorandum reported. And it makes you wonder what kind of connections he would have for that kind of thing, especially back then. I mean, like in say, 1989, right? There wasn't exactly Facebook back then. There were no cell phones. You couldn't track somebody to There you couldn't location track the way you can now. It makes you wonder just exactly where he was getting this information, who it was coming from, what kind of connections he had. Hmm, interesting. But the Greensboro massacre, I feel like I've heard about this one before. I could be wrong though. And this is one of those situations that's very much like a lot of other situations where right wingers, like, regardless of what flavor they may be, even if they're the wiggerest of nationalists, they're just going somewhere to exercise their First Amendment rights, and because the police and Antifa or just other left wing groups are so vitriolic, they force a tragedy, they force a horrible thing to happen, and then they blame it on the right wingers, who, by the way, like 9 times out of 10 went through all of the necessary legal things to, like, really, not that you need anything to be able to exercise your First Amendment rights, but at the very least, they tried to work with everybody that they could to the best of their ability. That's a typical thing that happened. That's what happened with Unite the Right. The right wingers, they wanted to have a rally, and they got permits. They went through every legal anything that they were told they had to go through, and they got it approved. And then Antifa and the cops were like, "You think you're having your rally? Nah." And then, of course, when something bad happened, when people got nailed by cars and some fat bitch had a heart attack, all of a sudden it's, "Oh, but those evil Nazis, they're the ones. They did this. They're the reason it all happened because of them." And it's like, no. No, if you had just ignored them, nothing would have happened at all. In fact, if you had ignored them, then their message would have been unheard. But everybody, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people saw Charlottesville, and even though they were afraid to say something at the time, they knew, hey, this is a little weird. Like, it takes two people to get into a fist fight, right? What were they all doing there? Why were they there? What's going on here? I've noticed there's this new group. What are they called? Anti-Fa or something like that. Those Anti-Fa guys, I saw them hitting people with bike locks and doing other heinous things to people. And now you're telling me that they were down in Charlottesville standing up to those guys that they say are Nazis? A lot more people than you realize were thinking that. They just weren't saying it out loud, because if you were to say it out loud, that's like saying that you don't think Charlie Kirk, like, should be alive, or whatever. Like, a lot of people are aware, and I'm pretty sure that this is exactly like those kinds of situations. If it's what I'm thinking of, um, egg-shaped Mossad agent material, yeah. Levy has one of the purest phenotypes, one of the purest pedophile phenotypes that I've ever seen. Oh yeah, there's he just looks greasy. I forget if Mordecai Mordecai, get over here. Anyway, yeah, this dude, he looks like he looks like John Wayne Gacy. He looks like he would try to fuck a little boy and then murder them. You know, um, it's not surprising. This guy has shyster phenotype. This guy has shyster phenotype is what he does. I'm curious about this though. JewishDefense.org. Alert, this website has been seized by the law office of Gary Kurtz. Interesting. Okay, dear website viewer, my name is Gary Kurtz. I am an attorney in Woodland Hills, California. My law practice is focused on civil litigation with a concentration on internet-related and cyberspace conflicts. I am responsible for freezing the ownership of JewishDefense.org and having it re-registered in the name of my law office. Okay. I seized the website and am in the process of seizing all the other websites and everything else owned or operated directly or indirectly by Alan Jules A.J. Weberman, because I am determined to set a zero tolerance example of what must happen to persons who maliciously and unlawfully abuse privileges provided in a country of laws. I'm asking you to help me collect a slander judgment against Alan Jules Weberman and set an example. I am asking you to help my client, Stephen Rambam, a separate slander judgment that he obtained in New York against Weberman and against Weberman's associate, Mordecai Levy, otherwise known as Mark Levy, Mark Levey, or Mark Levey, and other names. Interesting. We're gonna open that. Mr. Rambam, what a name! What a fucking name! Just fucking classic names. Weberman, Rambam. Mr. Rambam also has a further substantial judgment against the so-called Jewish Defense Organization. I hope this isn't just a shit ton of legalese. In whose name Mr. Weberman operated this site. Please continue reading to find out why you should help. So we got some of these guys. I don't know exactly who they are. This is apparently Weberman. Some time ago, I brought a slander and libel action against Alan Jules Weberman, a convicted felon, a drug dealer, and money launderer, also known as A.J. Weberman. Daniel Bension and Bension Daniel, after he posted bizarre and defamatory statements about me on the internet, including claims that I was a sexual deviant and that I had bribed a judge. This lore is getting pretty deep. I didn't expect to be anywhere like this. Weberman had been engaged this fucking lawyer can't spell. Weberman had been engaged in a earlier campaign of cyber harassment, slander, and libel against a friend and professional colleague of mine, Stephen Rambam. Mr. Rambam, a legendary private investigator and social activist. Okay, I guess we'll look into this guy. Had been hired to locate and serve papers upon Weberman's friend and housemate at the time, also a convicted criminal, named Mordecai Levy. When Mr. Rambam arrived at Weberman's home, Levy grabbed an assault rifle and from Weberman's rooftop began firing it into a busy Manhattan street in Mr. Rambam's direction. Damn. That's pretty wild. Mordecai Levy under arrest by NYPD SWAT after allegedly shooting at Stephen Rambam. Holy fucking shit, man! How old is this too? I'm curious because I don't know. This looks like it could be 80s, but I don't know. Like maybe it's like a 2001 thing. Didn't he get there was something about pleaded guilty. Oh no, that was assaulted a 12-year-old boy in New York State is what that was. Anyway, Levy's shooting wounded an innocent body. Oh, yo. This is yes, this oh, so this is from is this from 1989? Because Levy was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder and other charges after he opened fire on a late JDL leader, Irv Rubin, in 1989, hitting an innocent bystander. This almost, Rubin was attempting to serve a subpoena on Levy. Mr. Rambam, a legendary private investigator and social activist, had been hired to locate and serve papers upon Weberman's friend and housemate at the time. This almost sounds like that. It's just the details are a little bit different. You know, he even hit somebody. Specifically, Levy's shooting wounded an innocent bystander, a 69-year-old construction worker who was evacuated under fire by Mr. Rambam and another investigator. Levy then barricaded himself in Weberman's residence. After being arrested by an NYPD Emergency Services SWAT unit, Levy was charged. Did I say arrested or rescued? I feel like I said rescued. After being arrested by an NYPD Emergency Services SWAT unit, Levy was charged with Steve Rambam's attempted murder and other crimes, convicted of assault in the first degree, and sentenced to New York State Prison. Levy was also later arrested for assaulting 2 young Jewish boys at a Jewish Defense Organization event in the Catskill Mountains. I wonder what kind of assault that is. Wow, we're getting a lot here. We're getting quite a bit here, aren't we? And in a plea deal, pled guilty to related offenses and received 3 years probation with a mental health requirement. That's what happens. That's what happens when you're in the in crowd. You know, that's the kind of thing that happens. But anyway, following Levy's release from prison, he and Lieberman established a series of websites designed to slander and defame Stephen Rambam and to damage Mr. Rambam's reputation as a private investigator. Stephen Rambam's website, which in my opinion needs updating, is at www.polorium.com. Among the many truly bizarre and equally false statements on those websites was that Mr. Rambam's father was a mafia member and that Mr. Rambam's mother was a prostitute and that Mr. Rambam was mentally ill, a terrorist, and he secretly loved Nazis. Secretly. Judaism has a prohibition against lashon hara, the spreading of slander and false statements. I'm sure there's some kind of interesting little tidbit that goes with that too. I will leave it up to the readers of this website to determine if the conduct of Lieberman and Levy was and is in violation of that structure. Excuse me. Mark Levy, aka Mordecai Levy, approximately 2010. So here we go. Here he is. Here he fucking is. Man, that's crazy. I'm just curious about Pelor. Wow, man. Yeah, this is wow. This is a blast from the past, dude. That's crazy. CD-ROMs. What's the CD-ROM shit do? Investigative software products containing the name, address, date of birth, telephone number, and other vital data for most residents of the United States are now available for purchase by investigative professionals. Is there a CD-ROM with my dick size on this? People Finder, California, 2007. So this was at the very least, wow, this is a blast from the past. This is from the very least 2007, but it was definitely put together way before that because this is like a mid to late 90s, early 2000s. Like you met a guy who knows how to you met a guy who knows how to do like web design and stuff like that, but he's not that good at it, you know. They like looking at this is crazy, but I like it, you know, just for the simple fact that it's such a blast from the past. Like I said, contact us, man. That's wild. Anyway, okay, yeah, we're good. Eventually, Mr. Rambam was forced to sue Lieberman and Levy to maintain his professional reputation after a grand jury demanded by Lieberman and Levy. So this was a civil trial that had a jury, which is something that it can happen. Juries are not just a criminal trial thing, but in civil court, you have to be very, very careful about the idea of bringing a jury in there because you have to be sure that you have an ironclad case as to where a jury of your peers is going to side with you. Because unlike in a criminal case where it's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, that's not the way that it goes in a civil case. It's literally a game of like he said, she said, who's right, who's wrong. So it's usually not advisable to bring a jury into a civil case, but I guarantee you they demanded the jury because they were like, well, if we bring a jury in, they'll definitely side with us because we're gonna slander this guy and call him an anti-Semite. And another thing too, now that I'm thinking of it, it's funny that we expected these guys to go to the anti-Semite thing, but then in addition to that, I think it's interesting because there's something about slandering women as whores, slandering women as prostitutes. You know, didn't they do the same thing with Mother Mary, with the Virgin Mary? I'm pretty sure they said that she was like a prostitute or something like that. Is what they make the claim. of. It's funny how they are just always trying to they always try and swing for your knees. They always try the worst fucking thing that they can say or do. And if they don't have anything that's like really really that bad, they'll just slander you and they'll be like his mother's a whore. His mother was a prostitute. You got to be careful. It's fucking it's like holy shit, dude. Man, the war on privacy was lost so long ago. Oh yes, indeed. 350 for the archive. Wow, yeah. Uh huh. Anyway, put. Oh yeah, you're right. It almost looks like he's taking a selfie, but yeah, that's probably what he's doing. Um, because of Levy's and Weberman's connections to California, Mr. Rambam retained my office to enter his New York judgment here and to seize assets located in California. When I entered Mr. Rambam's judgment in Los Angeles County and began the process to seize websites owned by Weberman that were hosted in Santa Monica, Weberman began posting similar websites about me containing equally ridiculous and slanderous statements. This included a website claiming that I had bribed a judge in order to more efficiently enforce Mr. Rambam's judgment in California. I, of course, immediately sued Weberman. And I obtained a judgment in the amount of $1.5 million. Hell yeah. I'd say bankrupt these motherfuckers, but they probably have a lot more where that came from. Let's be honest here. I don't think these guys are a grassroots organization. Mr. Rambam and I are now both independently and very actively pursuing Weberman to collect our separate judgments. Mr. Rambam is also pursuing Levy and the so-called Jewish Defense Organization. Weberman's last known address is at 345 East 94th Street in New York, New York, where he may or may not currently reside with his wife, Nonette Dapoul, and his daughter. What do you marry an Indian or something? That sounds like an Indian name almost. And his daughter Sarah Weberman. In a recent judgment debtor deposition, Weberman claimed that a primary source of his income is the so-called Jewish Defense Organization, which he controls. Okay, that's cool, but when have you ever heard of the JDO? Ever? Levy's last known address is 2922 Nostrand Avenue, apartment 2E, Brooklyn, New York, where he may or may not currently reside with his wife, Bruria, and a young boy, Abba, possibly his son. Possibly. We're not sure. Could just be some random kid he picked up. When recently deposed, Levy claimed to have no income. Right. If any viewer of this site has knowledge of the current assets, employment, or activities of the three judgment debtors, A.J. Weberman, Mordecai Levy, and the Jewish Defense Organization, I ask that you assist Stephen Rambam and me in seeking justice done by providing that information to one or both of us. Mr. Rambam's New York attorneys are actively pursuing collection activities and are using judicial process to formally question Weberman again in the very near future. The questioning will be recorded by a court reporter. As additional information is gathered regarding these judgment debtors and as the legal actions against them progress, updates will be posted here and on other websites. I thank you in advance for your support. Sincerely, Gary Kurtz. Interesting. I almost want to hit this dude up and be like, hey, so what's going on with that, No, maybe I'll do that and we'll have an update. But here's one. Okay, all right, okay. So judgment of Stephen Rambam and Palorium Inc. against Mordecai Levy and Alan Jules A.J. Weberman. Yeah, I'm not that interested in learning about Stephen Rambam. Rambam, thank you, ma'am. Rambam, thank you, ma'am. But yeah, anyway, we haven't even read about all this shit. We haven't even read about all this shit yet. Hold on one sec. I want to check something really quick. Call him now, bro. Nah. He's probably in bed. I'm sure he's an old. I'm sure he's an old guy. I'm sure he's an old guy. But um, Scott, gotta say, Rombom, luxury apartment building, middle class apartment building. That's what I was thinking. Is like, oh yeah, no money, right? Yeah, sure. Um, Scott, if they ever reboot Murdoch, you got to voice the rabbi. I will. All they got to do is ask. Uh, this got crazy way quicker than I expected. Yes, so much quicker. That's insane. Anyway, so this is talking about some of the things that he has been involved in, right? Talking about Mr. Levy here, and that is the Greensboro massacre. After the massacre of 5 left-wing anti-Klan demonstrators by Klansmen and neo-Nazis in Greensburg, North Carolina in 1979, an incident known as the Greensboro Massacre, Levy came forward with information to help the victims in their attempt to win justice. Despite disagreeing with their Marxist politics, Paul Bermanzon, one of the survivors of the neo-Nazi attack, recalled the efforts to establish in court that the FBI had possessed advanced knowledge of the plot. Most incriminating of all was an affidavit from Mordecai Levy of the Jewish Defense Organization. When Levy got his FBI file through the Freedom of Information Act, he found an entry dated November 2nd, 1979, the day before the massacre. In it, the FBI reported that Levy told one of their agents, I have information that Harold Covington of the National Socialist Party of America is up to heavy illegal activity. Covington has been training in the Jefferson County area with illegal weapons. He and his group have plans to attack and possibly kill people at the anti-Klan gathering this week in North Carolina. Hold on. Harold, oh, okay, that guy. We'll have to look into the National Socialist Party of America at some point. I know that it was started. Oh, apparently it was founded by Frank Collin, I guess, or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to look into these. We'll have to look into these ones too. La Roche, or is it La Roque? La Roche. Um, Levy infiltrated the Lyndon LaRoche organization on a part-time basis from 1980 to 84 as a security consultant and supplied disinformation that convinced some of LaRoche's security staffers of plots against their leader. After Levy revealed his deception, the LaRochians described him as a chaos agent. I'm wondering who this guy is in the first place. Anyway, Levy has said that the JDO has a membership of 3,000 members, but monitors of Jewish extremist groups say only about a dozen people are actively involved at any one time. In a 1992 feature in the Jerusalem Report, notes that journalists and extremist group monitors who have followed Levy's career say the Jewish Defense Organization exists mainly in his mind, that his hardcore following is at most a few dozen Orthodox teenagers. That's hilarious too. That's funny as shit. Is like he's almost like a Chris Chan figure in the Jewish community, where Chris Chan thought he actually had like unabashed, unironic fans of the Sonichu series at first, and he was like acting like it, like trying to boss his fans around. That's kind of funny. FBI usually has advanced knowledge of what's new. Exactly, David Duke. In 1989, Levy traveled to Louisiana to attempt to disrupt the campaign of David Duke, the former Klan leader for the state legislature. An initial rally planned in the congregation of Beth Israel was canceled after the synagogue's rabbi Gabriel Newman noted Levy's statements that the JDO would not rule out violence in its efforts against Duke. Levy held a small rally against Duke the following month. Duke ultimately won in a runoff by 227 votes. Wow, I never knew that. Some Jewish leaders held Levy responsible for the victory. According to New Orleans Jewish Federation director Jane Buxbaum, there was a strong belief that Mordecai's interference helped create those 227 votes. Leonard Zeskind of the Center for Democratic Renewal, don't know what that is, which monitors right-wing extremism, said Levy went down there and carried on like a character out of central casting for a crazed New York Jew. I'm sure there were 227 people who voted for Duke just to get just to get at Mordecai Levy, excuse me. I hold him personally responsible for the election of David Duke. That is kind of funny that he goes down there. He's like, "We're gonna take these fucking Nazis out. Is what we're gonna do. These fucking KKK motherfuckers. We're gonna get them. We're gonna get them good. We're gonna pull. We're gonna punch them. We're gonna punch the Nazis. Oh shit, they won. Oh no." It's like fuck, man. Anyway. Rutgers. Okay. Levy and the JDO's involvement led to accusations that the group inflamed divisions at Rutgers University in 1995, where African American students had protested against comments made by the then president Francis L. Lawrence that were perceived as anti-black. The JDO accused the protesting black students of themselves being racist and anti-Semitic. That's pretty funny. That's actually pretty funny. This dude really is just a fucking chaos agent, apparently. I mean, we got to figure out who this Lyndon LaRoche guy is. You know, like I don't know. It really seems that way. He seems like he's just a fucking monkey wrench that wherever he goes, it just gets worse for him and his people. You know, it's funny. It's funny the way that works. But anyway, Levy's involvement was met with apprehension by some members of the Rutgers Jewish community. They're like, "Oh, fuck, this guy. Nah, get him out of here." Rabbi Norman Weitzner of Rutgers Hillel felt there was no anti-Semitism involved and noted the JDO sees anti-Semitism at the drop of a hat when it may not actually exist. Even the rabbi is like, "Whoa, hey guys, chill out. No. Relax. You seeing ghosts." The interim director of Rutgers Hillel said at the time that Levy thinks he's going to wake up the Jewish students. What's going to happen is he's going to start a racial war. I think that was probably the point. I think that was probably the point of what he was trying to get at. Anyway, agnostic. You missed the you missed us reading this. You missed us reading all of this, you know, and taking a look at this gem right here as well. You know, we're just reading some more shit anyway. So, legal conflicts. Levy is known for his running legal battles with independent licensed investigator and noted electronic privacy researcher Stephen Rombaum. So is it Rombaum or is it Rambam? For which Rombaum would ultimately successfully sue Levy and the JDO for in 1997 alleging defamation, false light invasion of privacy, and incitement to violence for his incessant attacks against ADL founder Abraham Foxman and others, along with JDO activist A.J. Weberman. Oh, interesting. Okay, we're going to have to check this dude out too. Also known for his activism in the Youth International Party, the Yippies. Ah, yes. You see, this is actually I didn't learn about this until high school. You could actually see a Yippie in Forrest Gump in the moment where he's doing the anti-war speech. The guy on stage with the afro, and I think he's wearing like American flag shit. I could be wrong about that, but that guy was a Yippie. Yippies were, a little bit different than hippies. You know, they were a little more hype. They were a little more aggressive. There's more to them than that, and actually, Yippies would be a good thing to look into because I don't know that much about them myself, but we'll save these guys for another time. Anyway. Levy and the JDO were successfully sued for libel more recently and fined $850,000. Damn. Levy claims to have done investigative work on such figures as American neo-Nazi Harold Covington and Stephen Hatfill, the one-time person of interest in the yet unsolved 2001 anthrax attacks. Really now? I didn't know those were unsolved. That's pretty crazy that they were able to get away with that, whoever it was. But then again, I mean, might be some other things other stuff at play there. But on the apparently ultra orthodox and self proclaimed anti Zionist rabbi Moshe Aryeh Friedman. Wow. And that is a very Jewish name. That is the this guy gets the award for the most Jewish name I have heard in a long time. And on the reputed Pakistani terror cult Jamaat al-Fukra. Huh. I don't know. Maybe that could be an international one we look into at one point. But I'm curious about this AJ Lieberman guy. I want to look into him just a little bit, and then we're gonna look into Lyndon LaRoche. We're gonna figure out what his deal was. He's actually got quite the um he's actually got quite the Wikipedia page. I find that to be a little bit interesting. Worldwide LaRoche Youth Movement. Interesting. I think this might actually be what we were looking for. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, A.J. Lieberman. Alan Jules Lieberman, born May 26, 1945, is an American writer, political activist, gadfly. What the fuck is a gadfly? A person who interferes with the status quo of society or community by posing novel, potentially upsetting questions. Oh, so a fucking annoying asshole is what it is. Just some fucking piece of shit. This guy thinks he's like, this is like peak boomer eccentricism. This is like peak, like, I'm not like those other guys type shit that you used to see. This type of shit from the boomers. They loved shit like that, you know? The fuck is all that? I'm standing in a dumpster. You're not supposed to stand in here. Wow. Oh man, but I'm completely unfazed. Anyway, is oh wait, oh yeah, Gadfly, an inventor of the terms garbology. I will definitely not bother using that ever. He is best known for his controversial opinions on and personal interactions with the musician Bob Dylan. Together in New York, folk singer David Peel Lieberman founded the Rock Liberation Front, in 1971, with the aim of liberating artists from bourgeois tendencies and ensuring that rock musicians continued to engage with and represent the counterculture of the 1960s. Yep, fucking worked very well. Um, Lyndon LaRouche. Ah, okay. Okay. Baby, can you hand me the back? Is there a Coke in there too? Yeah. Gucci. Thank you, baby. Much. What's did he bring me fries too? Yeah. Oh, well, I ain't gonna complain. How much? Let me know how much I own. McDonald's Coke is so satisfying. Anyway, um, you communicated with Bob Dylan. What a cool guy. I've changed my mind. Yeah, I mean, wow. Oh no, this isn't huge. This isn't huge. Anyway, so Bob Dylan. Lieberman has written on the life and works of Bob Dylan, including a pamphlet titled Dylanology in 1969, and creating a word concordance of Dylan's lyrics, an alphabetical list of the principal words used in a book. What a fucking freak. He also wrote the Dylan to English Dictionary, published in 2005. One of Lieberman's theories on Dylan's songwriting is that some of Dylan's songs are actually about or addressed to Lieberman himself. Wow, what a freak. Authors Bob Spitz and Jim Curtis have each rejected and ridiculed Lieberman's interpretations of Dylan's work. These are the kind of guys that try their best to like become somebody and they just end up being nobody, you know? This dude does not deserve a Wikipedia page. He deserves to be thrown in a fucking straitjacket. But anyway, In 1969, Lieberman founded the Dylan Liberation Front with associates such as street musician David Peel, aiming to help save Bob Dylan from himself. Lieberman was convinced that from Bob Dylan's docile, smiling visage on the cover of his 1969 album Nashville Skyline, the singer was hiding from his social conscience and ignoring his responsibilities as a political spokesman for the counterculture. Okay. Uh, Once Dylan had moved back to Greenwich Village from upstate New York in 1970, Lieberman took to rifling through his garbage. This is a stalker. This is literally a stalker. That's it. I don't know why they haven't used the term stalker yet or stalking, but he is stalking Bob Dylan. That's all he's doing. That's all he's fucking doing. That same year, Lieberman began lecturing in Dylanology at the left-wing Alternate University of New York. Wow. Okay. Far from the craziest thing that's ever been taught at a college, but at this time, the Liberation Front lamented that Dylan had become a reactionary force in rock, a view that was echoed among the radical left. Fantastic, then. Rolling Stone magazine called Lieberman the king of all Dylan nuts. He's just call him what he is, a fucking stalker. He has also been described as obsessively there we go. There we fucking go. Obsessively stalking Dylan. Good. Lieberman alleged that in late summer 1971, Dylan, annoyed that Lieberman had reneged on their agreement that he would no longer dig through his garbage, assaulted Lieberman by pushing him on Elizabeth Street in Manhattan. In a 1977 article, Rolling Stone reported that Lieberman, a man that terrorized Bob Dylan during the 60s, had now returned to hassle his son, Jacob Dylan. Lieberman claimed that the younger Dylan was a heroin addict. In 1977, Lieberman's telephone conversations with Dylan from the early 1970s were released on the Folkways Records album Bob Dylan vs. A.J. Lieberman, The Historic Confrontation. Writing in 2014 about the phenomenon of Bob Dylan obsessives, John Dickerson of Slate described Lieberman as the most famous of the Dylanologists. In December of 2016, after Dylan received a Nobel Prize in Literature, Lieberman released a video on YouTube in which he claimed credit for Dylan's achievement. That's kind of a funny one. Journalist John Semley began, where the fuck did I get began from? Writing for Salon, views Lieberman's claims as far-fetched, yet also identifies a scrap of truth in it. See, like, the difference between this guy and someone like what's his face, Mordecai Levy, is that Mordecai Levy decided his obsession would be a political one as opposed to a social one. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a tinge of politics in this, but he's trying to make his own little obsession about politics, and his obsession is not really overtly political, you know? He's just obsessed with Bob Dylan is all he is. That's it. That's all that's going on. Mordecai Levy is obsessed with being Jewish, and militantly so, you know? And some people just need a goal to chase, and they need an enemy to fight. And I'm one of those people, I'll be honest with you, you know? Like, when I'm resisting a bad thing, or when I'm fighting back against a bully or something like that, there is a certain sense of gratification, of validation, of affirmation, of a bunch of different Asians, you know? There's a lot of things that I feel inside that I feel good about, right? When I'm able to, like, do something good like that, you know? But I have to be very, very careful to not allow that to become like a big, I have to be careful not to allow that to turn me into a monster, right? And I'm pretty good at that, right? But these guys, they never learned how to not do that. And here we are, you know? There's also a tinge of poo, definitely a tinge of poo. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a nugget or two. Bro, I fucking hate Bob Dylan. Yeah, Bob Dylan Bob Dylan is a great example of like what I'm talking about. Is like Bob Dylan's the kind of guy who like he was one of the first to be like, yeah, man, I really don't care. Hey, man, it is what it is. Cool on out. You know, like I don't. I The whole nonchalant act is so fucking stupid, and I can't stand it. And this is an extension of the nonchalant act. This dude listened to Bob Dylan and was like, "Whoa, dude, that's great. I want to be that." And he developed his own version of that, which is hanging out in a fucking dumpster. You know. Anyway, Rock Liberation Front. We're gonna look into this one too. Maybe we'll. Well, that's the thing though, is apparently this guy is supposed to be a JDO guy. Anyway, so I guess it's kind of on topic a little bit, but it's talking about different stuff. Wasn't Bob Dylan necessarily a political musician at the time? Maybe this guy saw his obsession as political more so than social at the time. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. Well, that's the thing though, is that he literally said like he's trying to save Bob Dylan from himself and make it so that he's not a reactionary musician, but still like a leader of the counterculture and things like that. That's what he was talking about. Um, Paused magazine, yeah. Um, Imagine a Megan Fox stalker teaching a class on Foxology. Actually, you guys can sign up for that. It's going to start next semester. I'm going to be teaching it. Um, Man, Brad Baldwin is horny. Um, but yeah, anyway. Oh yeah, so Rock Liberation Front. Lieberman and the Dylan Liberation Front ceased their scrutiny of Dylan temporarily after he performed at George Harrison's Concert for Bangladesh shows at Madison Square Garden on August 1st, 1971. Lieberman was satisfied with Dylan's reversion to his 1960s protest singer persona and his scruffy attire at the concerts. Together with Peel, he formed the Rock Liberation Front, RLF, to establish a relationship of understanding and participation in the world of rock, which had been getting ripped off too long. They first targeted Paul McCartney, whose recent music showed he was just a businessman and a good example of the capitalist, non-involved, egotistical rock star. According to Lieberman, the RLF held a mock funeral for McCarthy on August 26th outside of the Park Avenue home of his lawyer and father-in-law, Lee Eastman. Reporting on the event a week later, the Village Voice, Blair Sable, opined that Lieberman's strategy was becoming over-familiar. Being the foremost Dylanologist or garbageologist was brilliant for last year's routine, but revamping it for Paul McCartney as this year's Capitalist Pig campaign is like giving an encore after the audience has gone home. The RLF also protested against Led Zeppelin for demanding $75,000 per concert performance. Lieberman's idealism resonated with John Lennon, fucking A, who had recently moved to Greenwich Village with his artist wife Yoko Ono and embarked on radical left activism under the guidance of activist Jerry Rubin. Interesting. Lennon espoused Lieberman's principles in his interactions with the music press, stating that he was dedicated to making politically motivated music without a thought for commercial gain. In early December, the RLF demonstrated outside Capitol Records, protesting the company's delay in releasing the live album from the Concert for Bangladesh after Harrison had accused Capitol of refusing to distribute the record at cost price. During the protest, Lieberman announced that Lennon and Ono had joined the Liberation Front, which he defined as a group dedicated to exposing hip capitalist counterculture ripoffs and politicizing rock music and rock artists. Man, I fucking hate leftists, dude. Through Lennon, Rubin came to be involved with the RLF, and soon, through Lennon, Rubin came to be involved with the RLF and soon sidelined Lieberman. That's funny as fuck. He got kicked out of his own thing. He got pushed aside in his own thing. That's hilarious. In his speech at the Freedom Rally for the imprisoned poet and activist John Sinclair on December 10th, 1971, where Lennon, Ono, and Peel were among the performers, Rubin described the event as the first act of the Rock Liberation Front. That's fucking great. I'm so happy about that one. That's so funny that this dude got fucking booted. Lennon, Ono, and Rubin also planned a U.S. tour that would use their political message to unite the nation's young voters and thwart President Nixon's campaign for re-election in 1972. Good one. Good one. Good job that one did. Lennon and Rubin were intent on enlisting Dylan for the tour and so issued an open letter on behalf of the RLF demanding that Lieberman publicly apologize to Dylan for the print and radio campaign he had waged against the singer and for describing him as a junkie. Because, like I said, they will be like, his mother's a whore. Published in the Village Voice, the letter also stated that those in the movement should save our anger for the true enemy whose ignorance and greed destroys our planet, and led to the RLF becoming an organization of interest to the FBI. Man, that's funny. Author Peter Doggett likens this demand to a forced confession in Stalin's Russia, since Rubin had openly supported the underground publications that ran Lieberman's stories, and Lieberman had been among the first to accept Dylan's post-Bangladesh single, George Jackson, as a worthy return to the protest style. Lieberman nevertheless issued an apology for past untrue statements and also the harassment of Bob Dylan and his family, and signed it A.J. Lieberman, Minister of Defense, Rock Liberation Front. Wow. Lieberman regained his leadership of the RLF in February 1972 when the group liberated, quote-unquote, the offices of Lennon and Harrison's business manager, Alan Klein, at 1700 Broadway. The event was a press conference in which Klein attempted to respond to allegations made in New York Magazine and partly supported in Rolling Stone that he had pocketed funds intended for the Bangladeshi refugees from the sale of Concert for Bangladesh's album, or the Concert for Bangladesh album, chanting, "You'll wonder where the money went," when Klein runs a charity event. The protesters disrupted the press conference and gained further exposure for Klein's alleged fraud in Variety, Rolling Stone, The Village Voice, and The Village Voice. Surprisingly for Lieberman, this resulted in an invitation from Lennon and Ono for him to visit them at their Bank Street apartment, where the couple confided that Klein was ripping us off too. According to Lieberman, he introduced Lennon to the group of supporters and financiers for the IRA, to whom Lennon made a generous financial contribution. You're telling me that fucking this dude is hanging out with the IRA. I don't believe that. I don't believe this guy's hanging out with the IRA, or at least supporters and financiers for the IRA. I don't believe that. Lennon's direct role in political activism soon waned, although he continued to finance activities by Lieberman and Peel. The latter recorded an album, "The Pope Smokes Dope," because of course, which was produced by Lennon and Ono and released on Apple Records in April of 1972. Lennon also donated $50,000 to pay for demonstrators' travel expenses to Miami, Florida, where Lieberman helped to stage a mass protest against Nixon at the Republican National Convention in August. You know what's funny? Right? America is supposed to be a Protestant nation, officially, unofficially, whatever way you want to swing it. As somebody who grew up in Massachusetts, I am kind of used to there being a lot of Catholics around, but that's because there's so many Irish and Italian around here. But once you get out of the Northeast, there aren't as many Irish and Italian. There are pockets in different places and stuff like that, but the majority of the country comes from Protestant roots. Whether it's some kind of Southern Baptist, whether it's Episcopalian, whether it's Pentecostal, whether like regardless of what it is, and I find it interesting that even though the Catholic Church, especially back then, did not have that much of a pull, it did not have that much of a sway in the nation, these guys always went after the Pope. They always went after the Catholic Church. You never heard them talk about evangelicals. You never hear them talk about Anglicans. You never hear them talk about Quakers, the Amish. You never hear them talk about anything like that. It's only the Catholic Church. That's it. It kind of tells you something. It kind of tells you something, you know. Um, be be a Jewish guy, enjoy Bob Dylan, love garbage, invent words, become rich. Apparently, fucking apparently, you know. Imagine being able to call yourself a garbageologist. Must be a dream. Yeah. This is again like this is part of one of those guys, right? Sorry, just looking around. This is one of those guys who he wanted to be special. That's really what it is that he just wanted to be special. And because of that, I mean, fucking look at this fucking freak. Look at this creepy ass motherfucker. He wanted to be special, but there was nothing special about him. So instead of doing something good, he just decided that he would what's it called? We'll read this one. We'll read this one, okay? Anyway, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Um, we will read this, but what I was saying, sorry, I'm kind of tired. I'm not gonna lie, but um, what I was trying to say is this dude, instead of like working on himself to become the best version of himself that he could be, instead of trying his best to do something good for the world or in the world, he just took whatever he felt like he could make into something that only he would be involved in, or that only he would be the foremost expert in, or whatever, right? He invented something so that he could have a title, is what it is, you know? That's like if I if I decided I wanted to give myself an accolade or a title or something like that. So I call myself a penologist or something like that. I'm sure people who study pens actually do exist, right? But just something else like that, where it's like I think up a very esoteric field of study or just something, an activity or whatever, and I'm the only one doing it. So I'm now the world's foremost expert in that thing. That's what this is. That's exactly what it is. But anyway, uh, coup d'état in coup d'état, coup d'état. Um, in America, the CIA and the assassination of JFK. Okay. In 1975, Lieberman wrote Coup d'etat in America, the CIA and the assassination of JFK with Michael Canfield. According to one account, Canfield and Lieberman propose a basic theory on the assassination revolving around the CIA and the Bay of Pigs fiasco, and then use the bulk of the book to document and substantiate their claims. According to Lieberman and Canfield, the CIA planned the assassination of Kennedy because he had agreed to stop the Cuban exile's anti-Castro operations. Among the book's contentions are that Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy and that two of the three tramps photographed by several Dallas area newspapers under police escort near the Texas School Depository um, shortly after the assassination, Kennedy, were Watergate burglars E. Howard Hunt and Frank Sturgis. Coup d'etat is a coup d'etat or coup d'etat? I don't know. In America was reported to influence United States House of Representatives member Henry B. Gonzalez to initiate a resolution that would result in the formation of the House Select Committee on Assassinations. That would be pretty funny. A reviewer for the Harvard Crimson wrote, despite its lapses into obsessive speculations about connections between irrelevant figures and dubious arguments by analogy of modus operandi, Coup d'etat is a chillingly convincing book. Yeah, I mean, they seem to get a lot right compared to what a lot of other people talk about. I'll give them that one, you know? And I wonder how much of that was actually fucking Lieberman and how much of it was Canfield. Makes you wonder. But anyway, CIA records since Trump released them have said this story. Really interesting. It's interesting. So it is coup d'etat. Okay. Thank you very much, Dick. Coup d'etat in America reiterated Ted Zulk's allegation that Hunt was the acting chief of the CIA station in Mexico City in 1963 while Lee Harvey Oswald was there. In July 1976, Hunt filed a $2.5 million libel suit against Lieberman and Canfield, as well as the book's publishers and editor. 6 years later, in 1982, Hunt dropped the libel suit. Yep. The thing about libel is that you have to prove damage. And if you can prove damages, and a lot of the time when I say prove damages, what they mean, or when they say prove damages, what they really mean is like, did you lose out on money? That's a lot of the time. So like, it's not even necessarily that this guy was like, okay, fine, you caught me, you got it right. It's not even necessarily that. It's that he probably didn't lose out on anything. Like he didn't get fired from his job. He didn't get refused a job that he was qualified for specifically because like the guy, the interviewer read up about the book and was like, oh well, you know. But yeah, anyway, Nixon was done dirty, 100%, you know, and he definitely did some things that were not good, but he didn't do anything that, by my estimate, I mean, I wasn't alive then, so I don't remember every little thing. But when you hear about the things Nixon did, most of the time you don't hear anything like straight up evil. You hear about things that only a leftist would be angry about, or something where it's like, okay, well, maybe he got manipulated. You know, like he took us off the gold standard. That was definitely not a good thing. You know, and you could argue with me whether or not that is like an evil act or something like that. But a lot of people talk about like he bombed Cambodia and Laos, dude. He sent troops in there, and it's like, yeah, the Ho Chi Minh Trail was going through those nations because the fucking Viet Cong knew that because of the way international relations, international politics on the world stage works, you don't just go into another nation's borders. You don't just do that kind of thing, you know? So they purposefully built the Ho Chi Minh Trail so that it would go through, or at the very least, they were safer in those areas, and it made it a lot easier for them to operate. And because of that, we had no choice but to go into those countries and say, hey, we're going to blow the fuck up out of these guys. Stay out of our way, you know? The idea is that Oswald was radicalized by Cuban communists to kill JFK. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it could be a bunch of different things, but yeah. Um, uh, Published works, articles. Excuse me. Dylan's movie, How Success Ruined His Sex Life. Fucking stalking ass motherfucker. But anyway, so we read a little bit about Lieberman. We read a lot about Lieberman. We read a little bit about Mordecai Levy, including the JewishDefense.org website that was seized by. Oh wow, this is him today. Damn, that's crazy. That was seized by Gary Kurtz, the law office of Gary Kurtz. We're going to go ahead. We're going to look into the Jewish Defense League. Oh boy, this is actually quite a bit of shit here. I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to skip the history section. We're not going to go year by year because it is getting late and my voice is hoarse. Like my throat hurts from talking for 3 to 4 hours yesterday. So, we're going to do our thing. But we'll also look at chapters, schism, and then other things like that. But anyway, so the Jewish Defense League is a far right political organization in the United States and Canada. Its stated goal is to protect Jews from anti-Semitism by whatever means necessary. It has been classified as a right-wing terror group by the Federal Bureau of Investigations, just like when they classify black dudes as white. Since 2001 is when it was, made this, and is also designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, but not the ADL, interestingly enough. According to the FBI, the JDL has been involved in plotting and executing acts of terrorism within the United States. Most terrorist watch groups classify the group as inactive as of 2015. Interesting. The cock party. The cock party. Anyway, so founded by Mayor Kahane in New York City in 1968, the JDL's self-described purpose was to protect Jews from local manifestations of anti-Semitism. Its criticisms of the Soviet Union increased local support for the group, transforming it from a vigilante club into an organization that with a stated membership numbering over 15,000 at one point. The group took to bombing Arab and Soviet properties in the United States while assassinating a variety of alleged enemies of the Jewish people, ranging from Arab American political activists to neo-Nazis. A number of JDL members have been linked to violent and sometimes deadly attacks in the United States and in other countries, including the murder of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee Regional Director Alex O'Day. We heard about him from the Mordecai Levy one. In 1985, the Cave of the Patriarchs Massacre. In 1994, a plot to assassinate U.S. Representative Darrell Issa in 2001, and a plot to bomb the King Fahad Mosque in Culver City, California. In 1990, Kahane was assassinated by an Egyptian-American gunman at a hotel in New York City. Rest in piss. Anyway, according to the Anti-Defamation League, the JDL consists of only thugs and hooligans, and Kahane preached a radical form of Jewish nationalism which reflected racism, violence, and political extremism, attitudes that were replicated by his successor, Irv Rubin. Interesting. So the ADL did apparently speak about them. Okay. Anyway, we'll go through origins, and then we'll go to, we might take a look at Israel. If not, we're just going to go straight to here. In 1968, while Kahane served as the associate editor of the Jewish Press, the paper's office began receiving numerous calls and letters about crimes being committed against Jews and Jewish institutions. Violence in the New York City area was on the rise, with Jews making up a disproportionately large percentage of the victims. Elderly Jews were being harassed and mugged, store owners were held up, and Jewish teachers were assaulted while Jewish synagogues were defaced and Jewish cemeteries desecrated. After discussing the matter with a few congregants, Kahane put out an ad in the Jewish Press on May 24th, 1968, which read, We are talking of Jewish survival, Are you willing to stand up for democracy and Jewish survival? Join and support the Jewish Defense Corps. Shortly after, Kahane renamed the group the Jewish Defense League, fearing that Corps would be construed as too militant. The group's declared purpose was to combat anti-Semitism in the public and private sectors of life in the United States of America. Kahane stated that the League was formed to do the job that the Anti-Defamation League should do but doesn't. Okay. So it's literally the Anti-Defamation League was not ADL enough. Assigned a nationalist group since 2001, everyday Americans are still more worried about white nationalists. Yes, exactly, Shortly afterwards, the Jewish Defense League put out a 4-page manifesto which stated America has been good to the Jew and the Jew has been good to America. A land founded on the principles of democracy and freedom has given unprecedented opportunities to a people devoted to those ideals, yet now finds itself threatened by political extremism and racist militancy. Furthermore, the manifesto stated that the organization rejects all hate and illegality, believes firmly in law and order, backs police forces, and will work actively in the courts to strike down all discrimination. Uh, when asked about Jewish Defense League members breaking the law, Kahane responded, "We respect the right and obligation of the American government to prosecute us and send us to jail. No gripes about that." The group adopted the slogan "Never Again," which was originally used by the Jewish resistance fighters in the Warsaw Ghetto. While the phrase is usually interpreted to mean that the Nazi Holocaust of 6 million Jews will never be permitted to recur, Kahane claimed that his intention was to declare that Jews should never again be caught by surprise or lulled into foolish trust in others. The first Jewish Defense League demonstration took place on August 5th, 1968 at New York University, with some 15 members chanting, "No Nazis at NYU, Jewish rights are precious too." You can hear the beat, you can hear the tempo in that, you know? All right, so interesting. Kahane immigrated to Israel from the United States in 1971, where he initiated protests advocating for the expulsion of Arabs from Israel and the Palestinian territories. In 1972, JDL leaflets were distributed around Hebron, calling for the mayor to stand trial for the 1929 Hebron massacre. Kahane nominally led the JDL until April 1974. In 1971, he founded a new political party in Israel, which ran in the 1973 elections under the name the League List. The party won 12,811 votes, or a little bit under 1%, just 2,857 short of the electoral threshold at the time for winning a seat, which apparently was 1%. Following the elections, the party's name was changed to Kach, taken from the Irgun motto "Rock Kach." Rock Kach. Anyway, Kach failed to gain any Knesset seats in the 1977 and 1980 elections as well. In the 1984 elections, the party won 25,907 votes, 1.2%, passing the electoral threshold for the first time and winning one seat, which was duly taken by Kahane. Kahane's popularity. So this is just kind of. I mean, I am interested in this. I want to read about that, but I'm not really interested in his political fucking whatever it's called. His political. Oh geez, actually. We might as well read this whole thing because I'm noticing some interesting things. Yeah, I'm not interested in his political career, you know. On November 5th, 1990, Kahane was assassinated after making a speech in New York. The prime suspect, El Said Nosser, man, these dudes are dysgenic. Anyway, an Egyptian-born American citizen who was subsequently acquitted of the murder but convicted on gun possession charges. The Koch party subsequently split in two. Oh man, they split the Koch, dude. With Benjamin Ziv Kahane, Meyer's son, leading a breakaway faction, Kahane Chai. Both parties were banned from participating in the 1992 elections on the basis that they were followers of the original Koch. Benjamin Ziv Kahane and his wife Talia were shot and killed by Palestinian terrorists on December 31st, 2000. Damn, that's crazy. On February 25th, 1994, Baruch Goldstein, an American-born Israeli member of Koch, who in his youth was a JDL activist, opened fire on Muslims kneeling in prayer at the revered Cave of the Patriarchs Mosque in the West Bank city of Hebron, killing 29 worshippers and injuring 125 before he ran out of ammunition and was himself killed. The attack set off riots and protests throughout the West Bank, and 19 Palestinians were killed by the Israeli Defense Forces within 48 hours of the massacre. On its website, the JDL described the massacre as a preventative measure against yet another Arab attack on Jews. Wow. Wow. Damn. And noted that they do not consider his assault to qualify under the label of terrorism. Furthermore, they noted that we teach that violence is never a good solution, but is unfortunately sometimes necessary as a last resort when innocent lives are threatened. We therefore view Dr. Goldstein as a martyr in Judaism's protracted struggle against Arab terrorism, and we are not ashamed to say that Goldstein was a charter member of the Jewish Defense League, which basically means he was a founding member. In a similar, I believe that means he was a founding member, but I could be wrong about that one now that I think of it. But anyway, in a similar attack nearly 12 years earlier, in April 11th, 1982, an American-born JDL member and immigrant to Israel, Alan Harry Goodman, opened fire with his military-issued rifle at the Dome of the Rock on the Sacred Temple Mount in Jerusalem, killing one Palestinian Arab and injuring 4 others. The 1982 shooting sparked an Arab riot in which another Palestinian was shot dead by police. In 1983, Goodman was sentenced by Israeli court to life in prison, which usually means 25 in Israel. They have the same thing in Brazil, baby. In Israel, if you get life in prison, you only get 25 years, just like in Brazil.
It's 40.
Really? It's 40? I thought you said you get out in 25.
It was 30 before, and they changed it a few years ago.
Oh. That's fucking bonkers, dude. Life in prison is like 80 to 100. So if you get like multiple life sentences, you'll get like over 200 years or something like that. But anyway, he was released after serving 15 and a half years on the condition of returning to the United States. Man, that is fuck. Hey dude, you can leave, just go to America. You're their problem. That is insane. Terrorism and other illegal activities. In a 2004 congressional testimony, John S. Pistole, Executive Assistant Director for Counterterrorism and Counterintelligence for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, described the JDL as a known violent extremist Jewish organization. FBI statistics show that from 1980 through 1985, there were 18 officially classified terrorist attacks in the United States committed by Jews, 15 of those by members of the JDL. That is crazy. And it's interesting how you will never, under any circumstances, hear about this, ever, no matter what. Ever. Never, ever. In its report, Terrorism 2000-2001, the FBI referred to the JDL as a violent extremist Jewish organization and stated that the FBI was responsible for thwarting at least one of its terrorist attacks. The National Consortium for the Study of Terror and Responses to Terrorism states that during the JDL's first 2 decades of activity, it was an active terrorist organization. The JDL was specifically referenced by the FBI's Executive Assistant Director, Counterterrorism, Counterintelligence, John S. Pistole, in his formal report before the 9/11 Commission. The JDL is suspected of being behind the 1972 bombing of the Manhattan offices of theater impresario Sol Hurak, in which one employee was killed. Man. Anyway, eating cold McDonald's fries. Anyway, a number of senior JDL this is from the violent deaths thing. A number of senior JDL personnel and associates have died violently. Mayor Kahane, The JDL's founding chairman was assassinated in 1990, as was his son Benjamin Zeev Kane in 2000. Longtime JDL chairman Irv Rubin died in 2002 in a Los Angeles federal detention center after allegedly cutting his throat with a jail-issued razor, then jumping or falling over a railing and plummeting to his death. Damn. Rubin's deputy, Earl Krugel, was murdered by a fellow prison inmate, and white supremacist in 2005. Rubin's son and JDL vice chairman Ari Rubin committed suicide in 2012. Damn, these guys, some bad luck there, you know? Dude, principles. The JDL upholds 5 fundamental principles. Love of Jewry. One Jewish people, indivisible and united, from which flows the love for and feeling of pain of all Jews. Dignity and pride. Iron. Discipline and unity. Faith in the indestructibility of the Jewish people. That's pretty crazy. In 1971, Kahane aligned the JDL with the Italian-American Civil Rights League, created the previous year by the Italian-American mob boss Joseph Colombo, head of the Colombo crime family. And he only created this to get himself out of jail, pretty much. Or he did that to get somebody out of jail. In 2011, the Canadian JDL organized a support rally for the English Defense League, really, featuring a live speech via Skype by EDL leader Tommy Robinson. The event was denounced and condemned by the Canadian Jewish Congress leader Bernie Farber and General Counsel Benjamin Scheinwald. The rally, held at the Toronto Zionist Center, attracted a counter-protest organized by Anti-Racist Action, ARA, which actually these guys became Antifa later down the road, resulting in 4 ARA members being arrested. The JDL Canada has also organized rallies in support of the right-wing Israeli politician Moshe Feiglin, a Dutch politician and well-known Islam critic Geert Wilders, and the Party of Freedom, and announced its support for the increasingly anti-Islamic Freedom Party of Austria. Rav Yehuda HaKohen, a leader of the Hebrew Universalist Vision movement, is a former JDL member and has cited Kahanism as an inspiration behind his ideological beliefs. That's pretty crazy. We're gonna check out the JDO in a second. But let's see about. I'm curious about their. So they had an Arizona chapter. They had a California chapter, Chicago chapter, Washington D.C., Louisiana of all places, Michigan, Texas. They didn't have a Massachusetts one. No Massachusetts ones. I was curious about that one. South Africa chapter. Boy, I can only imagine how interesting that one was. All right, so we can get out of there. So that was the JDL, right? The JDO is apparently this is a LDJ graffiti. LDJ graffiti in the Marais neighborhood in Paris. Picture taken on July 14, 2006, a little after the start of the 2006 Lebanon War. Anyway, the Jewish Defense Organization, there is not as much about here on this, right? Sorry, just looking around trying to make sure I don't miss anything too big. All right, hold on one sec. I gotta check on something. Okay, yeah, we're good. So, the Jewish Defense Organization, or the JDO, was or is a Jewish militant group in the United States. It is unclear if it is still functioning. Now, the background and the ideology is the JDO was founded in the early 1980s by Mordecai Levy, who we looked into, after a violent feud with the Jewish Defense League's former leader, Irv Rubin, who was either killed or committed suicide in jail in 2002. It is one of the two United States offshoots of the Jewish Defense League after breaking with the JDL's former leader, Meir Kahane. According to the Anti-Defamation League, the JDO is a branch of Kahanism. The JDO opposes the ADL and believes that the ADL head Abe Foxman obtained a pardon for Mark Rich after Rich made a contribution to the ADL. The Anti-Defamation League states that the Kahanist movement, comprising the Jewish Defense League and the Jewish Defense Organization in the United States, the KAK, Hebrew for thus or this is the way party in Israel, and the Kahane Chai, Kahane Lives group, founded under Kahane's murder and after Kahane's murder and operating both in Israel and in the U.S. has spanned 26 years, reflecting a consistent agenda of hate, fear-mongering, and intimidation. I figured they would have had more. I figured they would have had a little bit more to talk about there. Rand Corporation Terrorism Authority Bruce Hoffman notes that terrorist organizations, almost without exception, now regularly select names for themselves that consciously eschew the word terrorism in any of its forms. He cites the JDO as an example of an organization that has chosen this name. I don't know of a single group that would utilize the word terror or terrorism in a name like that. That's a really weird way to put it. A really weird thing to think about. Anyway, yeah. So the JDO's campaigns, okay? The JDO's security team has occasionally patrolled Jewish neighborhoods in the aftermath of anti-Semitic incidents and urged other Jewish groups to do likewise. JDO members attempted to help provide security in Crown Heights during the 1991 Crown Heights riot. Interesting. I'm wondering about that one. Anyway, the group has engaged in fights against neo-Nazis and white power skinheads in Las Vegas and other cities. It has also demonstrated without incident against Louis Farrakhan in New York City. The JDO often gives its demonstrations pseudo-military names such as Operation Klan Kicker or Operation Nazi Kicker. Fucking LARPers. Anyway, in 2004, the JDO held rallies at an apartment house in Manhattan's Upper West Side where a neo-Nazi activist and Holocaust denier ran his operation. In 1989, it launched a boycott of the rap group Public Enemy in response to allegedly anti-Semitic remarks by Professor Griff, its self-styled Minister of Information. As a result of the media controversy, Griff temporarily left the band and Public Enemy apologized for his remarks. The JDO has adopted a tactic of pressuring hotels and other public facilities to cancel meetings sponsored by anti-Semites such as David Duke. In early 2004, the JDO waged a phone-in campaign to pressure a Florida company to remove billboard messages sponsored by the National Alliance. Interesting. We're going to have to look into them too as well. An organization widely regarded as neo-Nazi. In September 2006, Columbia University scrapped plans for an address by Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad because of security and logistical problems. The move came as the JDO expressed outrage that the hardline leader had been invited to speak. Yeah, just kvetchy, you know. In late 2006, the JDO initiated Operation Screwball, aimed at the small Haredi Jewish group Neturei Karta. In 2007, the JDO helped organize a demonstration in which several hundred Orthodox Jews protested against Neturei Karta, some of whose members had been attending a Holocaust denial conference in Iran. Wow, that's pretty crazy. The protesters shouted, "Nazi traitors, go back to Iran, you are killing Jews," at members of Neturei Karta in the Rockland County community of Monsey. On January 14th, 2007, 200 JDO members and sympathizers gathered outside of a Brooklyn hotel to protest the presence of Moshe Aryeh Friedman, an anti-Israel rabbi who spoke at a Holocaust denial conference in Iran. In June of 2007, New York City police investigated the JDO after it plastered flyers over Brooklyn councilman Charles Barron's office, calling him an anti Semite for voting for a defeated proposal to name a street after controversial black nationalist activist Sonny Carson. Okay. And then the last one is allegations of fueling racial unrest. Levy and the JDO's involvement led to accusations that the group inflamed divisions at Rutgers University in 1995. Yeah. We already read about this one. Yeah. So that's interesting, you know. It's crazy how much of this shit went on in the background. Like people are vaguely aware of the Weather Underground. You can even find people who are aware of the Symbionese Liberation Army, right? The way I learned about the Symbionese Liberation Army was actually through TV. I watched some shit. It was on, I think, the History Channel. I'm pretty sure it was the History Channel, but they talked about the SLA. You can find stuff that is in the mainstream about these organizations, even if it is a little bit hard to track down, you know, and they don't really want you to know too much about what happened, because then you'll be like, what the fuck, those people are teaching my kids now. You can still find it. You can't find anything about the JDO or the JDL on like TV or anything like that. It's just not around. Even when I typed in Jewish Defense Organization into the Brave browser, it wasn't bringing this Wikipedia page up. It didn't bring this Wikipedia page up. It brought up the IDF because, well, I mean, I don't know, you know. It's just strange. It's just strange, you know. Um, I I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It kind of became just reading the Wikipedia article, and the reason why is because I'm a little bit tired. But then in addition to that, if I'm being honest with you, like I'm learning about this group myself. I really don't know that much about them. It's news to me, you know. It was pretty cool that we were able to stumble upon this. I'm glad that I clicked on that link to figure out all this shit, right? That was cool, but I'm like, excuse me. I'm learning I'm learning about this stuff too with you guys. Maybe when I talk about the SLA or you know, Weather Underground, I'll be able to tell you guys a little bit more off the top of my head, and I'll be able to explain it in a certain way that's going to be helpful to you and all that other stuff. But I was honestly just curious to figure out all this stuff in general, you know. Holy fuck, imagine calling yourself that. Yep. Mm-hmm. Man. But yeah. So I'm not gonna leave right this second, right? I am gonna leave soon. You know, I'll give it another like 5-10 minutes, and I'll just chill. And if anybody's still even here, you know, it's very late. I understand it's very late, and you know, people are probably in bed, or they're probably, you know, spending their Saturday night in a better way than hanging out with me, you know. But we'll hang out and we'll do our thing anyway, you know. Strange. Anyway, but yeah, I want to, like I said, I've been trying to think of different things to do on stream. I think these deep dives are a good thing, and I'll continue doing them, whether it's lol cows or if it's extremist groups or something like that. We can go ahead and you know, we can keep doing our thing. We can keep seeing what we can find out there about whatever, right? Because I have a good time doing these things, but I also want to try and put together, say, like that not argument, but that debate. You know, putting together that debate between REA and Jimmy would be good. Um, you know, I also um uh, sorry, I was checking something real quick. You know, I also want to do game shows again and stuff like that. I'm gonna keep on working on that stuff, you know. I appreciate you guys being here though. You know, it means a lot to me, obviously. And I'm gonna figure out what the best time to do my Saturday streams are. I feel like later in the day is just gonna have to be the move because there's probably gonna be times, or most days, I'm probably gonna be doing something else. Um, but I guess we will see how that goes. Um, I hate, I'm a creature of habit. I hate having to switch things up for whatever reason it may be, It's so annoying. It's so fucking ridiculous. But yeah, anyway, I think I'm gonna head out. All right, I'm like getting really tired, which pisses me off because I wanted to play some video games tonight, but I probably won't even be able to. Thank you for tuning in. I had a good time. I hope you had a good time as well. And I will see you guys on Wednesday most likely. If I can stream before then, I will. But Wednesday is most likely going to be the day. So I will talk to you guys later. And peace out.